What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Dynasty 365, where tonight we say goodbye to the overvalued and undervalued players on the AFC side, and then we move over now to the NFC side, starting in the North Division, Aidan. We, of course, will be using the Fantasy Pros ECR expert consensus rankings for our analysis. Feel free to follow along if you'd like. Check out their website or the rankings. Yeah, Fantasy Pros Dynasty ECR at fantasypros.com/NFL/rankings/dynasty-overall. Before I introduce you to the stellar crew tonight, if you're watching with us on YouTube, you want to support our content, please like this video, subscribe to the Fantasy and Frames YouTube channel, catch anytime a new podcast or short drops from us. Also, make sure to head over to fantasyandframes.com for all of our rankings. We've got Dynasty, Redraft, IDP, rookie rankings as well, article content that is always dropping here at Fantasy and Frames. And we even have premium content now for those interested for less than a cup of coffee a day at $4.99 a month. I know Aidan put out his first premium article about a week ago, so go check that out, fantasyinframes.com. Follow us on our social media channels as well. Just search Fantasy in Frames. JT, Aidan hopped into a new startup Dynasty Superflex League with me. Perhaps you missed the memo. I put it out there, but for anyone to join, but I know that you're like in 2,000 leagues anyway. But anyway, JT, the point here is we may have some new viewers tonight because the league is shook by Aidan's knowledge a little bit.
They weren't aware.
Yeah. You'll be happy to know also, JT, I landed on Aronde Gaston in a tight end premium league for 2 points per catch. But first off, how you doing tonight? Second, quick question. Do you feel that a 2 point per catch for a tight end is enough premium to offset the quarterback value where everyone else gets 1 point per catch?
If you go 2 point per reception on tight ends, that always changes the value for me because you just look at it. I mean, you don't need 85 catches. You know, you need 50 catches, 60 catches, you know, and especially if there's any yardage premium in there as well, that always kicks that up just enough. So I definitely like the fact that I'm going to probably draft guys higher with a 2 point premium. I'm in leagues all over that are like 1.25, 1.5, 1.75, and some that are 2. I'm in a couple that are 2.5, which is wild. It gets crazy then for tight ends on that. But anything over like 1.5, I like the 1.75 and 2. You definitely got to look at moving those guys up just a little bit in your rankings. Obviously, got to be smart about it. But I love that on Gadsden. I know he's been getting moved up recently for a lot of people, but I just think, man, he just got worked in last year. Like, I feel like he's got the whole offseason. He should come in as the guy this year, as opposed to a 5th round rookie pick who guys were like, yeah, is he going to do anything? I think he should be moved up. I love him. I think he's going to be really good in this offense. And I tell you what, man, I'm just fired up by this Chargers offense. I like a lot of these guys. I think if Herbert can stay healthy and the O-line can get it back together, because obviously devastated by injuries last year, I think this offense, especially Mike McDaniel coming over, could be really, really good in the AFC. So I'm buying all the shares of the Chargers, especially around at Gaston. At 2 points, I love that at 2 points. I've been eyeing him in a draft right now for about 3 rounds. I'm like, it's not a huge premium, but I'm like, I kind of want to take him, even though there's not technically a start tight end in this league. It's like a best ball with like flex positions. And I'm like, ooh, the 2 point premium still might bounce him up enough for me to take him ahead of some wide receivers that I got on my list.
I'm glad you said that, JT, because I'm actually getting a little heavy with the Chargers offense. I have Herbert as one of my quarterbacks, and also took Ladd McConkey. And I'm usually not a guy that likes to stack like a team, but it's just kind of playing out like that way. You know, I got good value on Ladd McConkey. Aidan, what's up with you, man? I see you texted me earlier in the day that it is like 90 degrees and that's really hot 95 for New York. So are you doing all right? You staying out of the sun? What's up?
Yeah, we're good. Our whole backyard is sun, but luckily we have an in-ground pool that we've had for about 5 years now. So I was in that pretty much all afternoon, got in, made a couple of picks in the Dynasty League that you were just alluding to, and here we are.
All right, well, if everyone's ready, we don't have too much news and notes to go over, but we got a little bit, so let's dive onto some news and notes. All right. So like I said earlier, it's a very light news and notes segment. The only news I really want to touch on is the whole Brandon Ayuk situation, guys. We don't really need to go into specifics at this point. We all have Twitter or X. We all see the videos that are surfacing on Brandon Ayuk. But at this point, Aidan, are you interested in Ayuk at an extreme discount? I did see that you took him in that 16.
I was going to say,
yeah, you took him there in the 14th round of that super flex. So I guess everyone could be bought, huh?
Yeah, I get. First of all, he seems very upset. But second of all, at that point, I mean, like, why the hell not? I feel like the other receivers there going forward for Dynasty that were available at this point, Kyle, in our draft, were spike weeks here and there, fit more for a redraft just this season, best ball going forward, if you will. But for true Dynasty, at that point of a dirt cheap price, sure, why not? I'd take Brandon Ayuk on cut down day. As soon as he's cut, they voided the guarantees. He'll join the Washington Commanders. He's the immediate number 2 target behind Terry McLaurin, even if it's probably just a 1-year window, which it probably is at this point. Brandon Ayuk, like, he still seems like juiced up and ready to play, and he was still putting up ultra efficient numbers when he was healthy before his last ACL tear. So at that point, like, mine as well. I'm not going to go above that, but at this dirt cheap price point every single day marching on here, I'll take it.
Albert's in the chat. He says, hello, everyone. What's going on, Albert? Thanks for joining us again tonight. You are an OG here. And JT, get your thoughts on Brandon Ayuk. Where are you at on like Dynasty startups? Will you take him at a discount or you pass on him?
I'm not taking him in a lot of spots. If he falls, just with the news that he's probably going to the Commanders. I mean, right now was like everyone's looking like who is going to be the second guy there. Antonio Williams. I love Antonio Williams, so this hurts him a little bit, at least here for the first year. I still think he's going to be involved in that offense, but maybe not quite as much as we were hoping. Ayuk, I've got a mostly, I usually say love-hate relationship right now. It's pretty much been nothing but a hate relationship with me and him. I got him one year where my internet connection went out in an auction league, and it bid him way up for me, and I ended up getting him for way more money than I ever would have considered paying for him. So I was super mad. I got him. This is early days, too, before he had kind of really broken out. I was pissed. I spent a ton of money. There was a million other guys I would have got instead. I ended up dropping him like 4 weeks in the season just because I was so irate about it, and he was not doing anything. That was the year he finally broke out near the end of the year and blew up. And, of course, whoever else picked him up, he had a huge end of the year, helped him win the championship after I just dropped him for nothing. So still mad about that. On Brandon Ayuk for sure. I haven't loved his game. I was not in – when they signed him, I was like, man, this feels like a huge reach. He was like a guy I was like, man, I would let him go and let somebody else spend the money on him. But Niners did it, and obviously did not work out well with the situation and getting hurt. And everything since then has been a disaster. But for fantasy purposes, like Abe said, if he's going to fall way, way, way into the teen rounds, I could see taking a shot on him there. Because, again, even if he gets off to a slow start or isn't great, I mean, what is he? You're taking him as a flex play anyway. So to me, it's worth it on the flex play because with all the guys moving around this offseason, I feel like there's a lot of wide receivers out there that we're like really up in the air on. You know, we're like, is that guy going to be the 2? Is he going to be the 3? Is he going to be the 4? Because there's a lot of teams that their third wideout looks really iffy right now. But you know there's going to be moves. You know people are going to be signed. Somebody's going to get traded. So I just think right now trying to figure out who's going to be where just yet is kind of still up in the air for a lot of teams. So I think it's worth it as my long story about Brandon Ayuk and my hatred is gone. Yes, I do think he's still worth probably taking a shot, especially if you get him at a nice value.
Yeah, the only trouble that I have with it is, when you're that late in the draft, do you take a 28-year-old wide receiver like that? Or do you shoot for the moon and go with upside on a younger, player that maybe you can actually have for a longer period of time and actually hit on them? So that's kind of like the trouble that I'm at with that. But
depending on how you built your draft, Kyle, I could see you going one way or the other. If you kind of built young and you're like, ooh, I don't know if all these young guys are going to hit this year, maybe you take Ayuk late because maybe he comes in and he does give you a nice production season to kind of fill in with some of your younger guys. Where off the other side, if you've gone like win now across the board and you feel really good about your team, maybe you do go, I'm going to take a guy for the future. Let me grab a younger guy that I don't need this year over Ayuk, who could maybe be good, who could maybe do nothing. I think you maybe could flip it depending on how you've already got your build started.
Yeah, totally true. And once again, we are using the Fantasy Pros expert consensus rankings for our analysis on each of these overvalued and undervalued players tonight. And we are covering the NFC North. And we're starting out with a banger right now here tonight. Y'all already know I have been banging the drum on the ridiculousness of Luther Burden's ADP in both redraft and in Dynasty. Looks like Aidan is seeing it the same way that I am, but I will be giving JT a chance here to respond because that is his boy. He's been backing him up all year long, even last year. But Aidan, I want you to be very careful here because you need to tread lightly. I don't know if you remember, but the Burden Mafia came after me on X way back in May when I spoke about this. Nobody was really hating on Luther Burden back then, but they are now, and Aidan's here to tell us why. Be careful, Aidan, why you are avoiding Luther Burden in Dynasty.
Oh, don't worry. I got cold, hard facts to back this up. Burden, sitting at wide receiver 19 right now, when really, as I'm going to explain, we haven't seen too much to be extremely confident as people are in the ECR right now. Let's just talk about the raw usage and opportunities. Last year, Luther Burden in Chicago was 5th on the team in overall targets and a whopping down the trough here, 9th on the team in end zone targets last season. He had a total, get ready for it, one single end zone target when they got down into that area. That is extremely disappointing for all the hype, to say the least. Now, moving past all that, I want to talk about a teammate of his. Rome Odunze is still here. He didn't retire the last time I checked yesterday. Rome Odunze is still a former first-round pick just 2 years ago now. And he showed signs of being a league winner last year before he kind of got phased out of the offense down the stretch and was battling that Jones fracture in his foot or whatever fracture it was that held him back, as he had a touchdown in each of his first 5 games. 5 games, 5 touchdowns. So if he can, this season, fully healthy, what it seems he is right now, if he can keep up that blistering pace and efficiency from last season, he will be the wide receiver 1 on this team. Speaking of wide receivers and pass catchers, I've never personally been a DeAndre Swift guy, whether he's been in Detroit, the last couple years in Chicago, looking ahead to this year. I much more prefer Kyle Zeigler. But, like it or not, Ben Johnson is one of the best run play designers in the league, most up-and-coming run play coordinators, and like it or not, the Chicago Bears are they run the ball a lot, is a very run-heavy offense and team as a whole, rather, with both DeAndre Swift and Kyle Zeigler in tandem there. And DeAndre Swift is a very electric pass-catching back, so not to mention that is a target in its own right for Burden to compete with as well. Everyone wants to draw the parallels between Ben Johnson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Detroit days. Fine, whatever. But in terms of route and usage and opportunity, I think Colston Loveland could be the quote-unquote Amon-Ra St. Brown player rather than Luther Burden in this offense. In fact, I don't think this is going out on a limb. Some people might, based on the hype of Burden. I'm predicting Loveland to lead the Bears in receptions, targets, yards, and touchdowns, a whole major pass-catching categories in that light. Bottom line, moral of the story, Luther Burden is a top 24, we'll say, wide receiver, low-end wide receiver 2. I'm down with that. I like that based on the sheer upside. But as a top 20 wide receiver, before we've seen really anything close to being put together consistently, other than immense flashes, I'll give him that as a rookie, that's getting a bit rich to me personally. I know, Kyle, you agree, but I also wanted to back it up with facts there. So that's my pitch on why Luther Burden is being overhyped right now. grossly for that matter.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that, Aiden. Drew is with JT on that. He likes himself some Burden. Also, the boss man's in the building too. You know, he loves it as well. But we got one guy on our side, Aiden. We got Winston Disclosure here. He agrees with you. He feels like it's way too high. But I got to give JT a chance to respond because that's been his boy since last year. So yeah. JT, what do you got to say, man?
I can understand people thinking, okay, Aiden ran off the numbers for you. You know, if you're just looking at the pure numbers from last year, you're like, yeah, why is this guy ranked this high? It seems a lot for a guy that hasn't done a ton of his career so far. But to me, it's all about the offense he's in, the coach he has, and basically opportunity. DJ Moore's gone. Most people thought he would be when they drafted Burden, and the whole idea was Burden was going to take his spot. And right now, the number one spot for the Bears is wide open. We've also seen that the number one and number two spots in Ben Johnson's offense can be very valuable for fantasy. I know people are absolutely loving Colson Loveland. I like him as well. But I'm not sure that he's like going to just be the guy for this team. I think he's going to be in the mix. I think it's going to be a good mix between those three guys, Dunze, Burden, and Loveland. I think Cole Kmet's going to work his way in there a little bit. But I just think this is wide open. I like Dunze. For dynasty purposes, I'd rather have Burden. He's 2 years younger. I think Burden is a better athlete overall than Dunze. So I like them both. But I just think if anyone has a chance to be that slot stud that gets 1 million targets and catches, I think it's Burden. And again, I've said this for years. Dude was a 5-star coming out of high school, top receiver in the country. Had an unbelievable true sophomore year at Mizzou before injuries to the QB kind of really set him back his junior year. He was a second-round pick. I still think we're going to look back that in years and be like, how did that guy drop to the second round? He, to me, should have been a top 15 pick in that draft as a wide receiver. I think if he would have could have come out, I should say that, after his sophomore year, which, again, have to be out of high school 3 years in college, 3 years of high school football. You have to be out after 3 years to go to the NFL draft. So he couldn't come out after his sophomore year. If he would have come out after his sophomore year, I think he's an easily top 15, top 20 pick. So because of those reasons is why I love him. It's not just the stat production. It's the fact that he's an elite talent. He has been for pretty much his entire life. I think he's ready. I love this offense. I like Caleb Williams. I think Ben Johnson's going to get involved. That's why I like it. I think him and Dunze should be pretty close, to be honest with you. I like Burden more because I think I like the role he's going to have more. But I think Dunze is going to be good. The Bears are another one. They're like the Chargers. I kind of want a little bit of everybody in that offense because I think it's going to be a really good offense. So I just prefer Burden, especially when it comes to dynasty purposes. If you're in redraft, he's probably going too high in a redraft league for sure. For sure. I'll agree with you on that. But for dynasty purposes, I think that 15 to 20 range is a really good spot for him right now. I really do. Because if he has the breakout year that I think he's going to have, and as Drew said, Drew has him 17th. If he has a breakout this year, the price for him is going to skyrocket even more. So you think it's high now, it's going to be real high next year. So that's why even though if I'm overpaying a little bit this year, I'm buying anyway because of that.
I'm glad you said that. You literally took the words out of my mouth because I was going to say, if I had to pick, I have to back up Luther Burden in Dynasty or redraft. I have to pick one. I would pick Dynasty in that aspect. So I'm glad you said that. JT took the words out of my mouth. I didn't want to say too much Luther Burden because, he is on my bus list for tonight at 10 o'clock with Pat Fitzmaurice. So if you're into redraft, folks, come by, check us out tonight, 10 p.m. for Fourth and Frames with Pat Fitzmaurice from Fantasy Pros. I'll give you more on Luther Burden on why I am avoiding him in redraft leagues. But I want to talk about
I'm jealous you're going to be on with Pat. Pat's the man. I'm in one of John McGlynn's home leagues with him. Missed Pat this year. He had a family emergency, wasn't able to come to the live draft, so missed him. I'm definitely going to have to check in and say hi to him on the show. Pat's a great dude. Yeah, awesome. Glad to hear that and appreciate your support there, JT. But I want to talk about your first bus list here is Matthew Golden, overvalued, I should say. Wide receiver 49. He is only 22 years old, but you're not buying it, huh, JT? So I will, say this off the bat, just to let everybody know. I actually felt like a lot of the guys in this North division were pretty right where they should be.
So
I actually struggled for an overvalue. Usually I'm like all over the overvalued guys, right? These guys I just can't stand. So I was looking at it, I was like, man, I feel like all these guys are pretty close to where they should be. So while I don't think that 49 is a huge overvalue for Matthew Golden, a young guy who still has a lot of years left. So I will say that I don't feel like it's a huge overvalue, but for me, I don't like it because there's other guys in that range I'd rather have. I also, what bothers me is Jaden Reed is listed behind him. Now, Jaden Reed is 4 years older. He is coming off an injury. But for me personally, if you had to say, hey, do you want the next 4 years of Jaden Reed or next 4 years of Golden, I'm jumping on the Jaden Reed bandwagon here. I like him. I think he has a bounce back year after the injuries last year. It's going to be interesting how they use Golden with Watson. Now the Dubs is gone. Wicks is gone. Like how is this wide receiver core going to work out? I think that Golden's going to be odd man out. I really do. I think Christian Watson is going to be their D threat. I think Jaden Reed's going to be back underneath, being the slot underneath guy. You got Tucker Kraft. I think Golden's in there. I didn't love him in college. I have to be honest with you. I didn't love him in college. He had some really nice games, but he just wasn't consistently a stud. Mm-hmm. And those guys, I struggle with those guys at the next level. If they can't do it consistently at the college level, we expect them to do it at the pro level. I think he's a decent wide receiver. It's not that I dislike him. And that's probably a decent spot for him, to be honest with you, in that, that range. But again, if you're saying, hey, I'm taking Christian Watson in the early 30s or Jaden Reed right behind him, I'd rather have those two guys. Plus, there's a few other guys in that, not in this division, but just in that area that I'd much, much rather have. I mean, you got Michael Pittman 3 spots ahead of him. You got Jacoby Myers right behind him. Even Omar Cooper Jr. for the Jets is 4 spots behind Golden. That's my biggest problem. I don't think it's a horrible call. It's just there's so many other guys I'd rather have in that range. So like I said, it's not a super overvalue. I just don't like him as much as I like other people in that range.
Fantasy Meatballs in the house. He's saying hello. He's got a question. Aidan, who would you rather have, a healthy Ricky Pearsall or a Jaden Reed?
Oh, I've always been down on Jaden Reed. Still am, very much so. I understand he got that contract, but by a mile, a healthy Ricky Pearsall.
JT, you feel the same?
I feel like that's really close. I think it's really close. If Pearsall can put it together for the Niners, I think I'll say this. I think Pearsall has the highest ceiling. Like, I think if things go right, he gets healthy, everything for the Niners turns out the way you hope as a fantasy manager, Pearsall could have a monster year. Now, I think Jaden Reed's good. I don't ever think he's going to be like a wide receiver 2 in the league. I just don't. He's a nice flex play, maybe a wide receiver 3 on your team if you had to. I like him as a player. Fantasy-wise, you're just not going to get a ton of games out of him. He's a great best ball guy because you are going to get those huge games where he gets like a rushing touchdown, some like a wild like screen pass, but like he's not going to consistently get like 8 or 10 targets a game. So I think high side, I say Pearsall. I'm
with you there on JT. I mean, Ricky Pearsall to me, man, his ADP's gotten driven down so bad because the guy's had unfortunate luck, man. I mean, he's been shot. He had him out. He's been injured as well. And in college, man, the guy was healthy. He played a lot of games in college. I would love to see Ricky Pearsall put together a 17-game campaign because I think if he does that, the light bulb's going to go off on these people and they're going to start being on that Ricky Pearsall train. Fantasy Meatball in on it as well. Ricky Pearsall, he chose it as well. JT, you're right. Fantasy Meatball, he flashed goodness there, and I haven't given up on Ricky Pearsall yet. I still think he's got some time to put it all together. Moving on now to my guy that I feel like is overvalued, and it's Kyle Monangai, ECR running back 31. I think it's too steep, man. Running back 31 to draft in startups, even trade for in Dynasty, even being his age at 24. As great as he was last season, I can't pay this price on him. Monangai gets decent volume. Don't get me wrong. He averaged almost 10 carries per game. He's a solid backup on a football team. You know, he's a good RB2. But with running backs with at least 150 carries, Monangai ranked running back 32 in missed tackle force per attempt. He was running back 29 in rushing yards per game. And despite it being a near 50-50 split down in the red zone, Swift was the better runner on all accounts. Yards per carry, more first downs, a higher touchdown rate. I like Monangai. I think he's a solid running back too for the Bears. But there's some risk here that maybe he outperformed a little bit last year. I mean, he could regress with Caleb Williams stepping up now as a passer. We really haven't seen Monangai be involved in the passing game either. I mean, Swift has pretty much handled both rushing duties and receiving work. Add in the fact, guys, that Monangai only holds 7th round draft capital. He could easily get pushed out next year by a rookie. That could very easily happen. I feel like there's just more risk versus reward with Kyle Monangai at running back 31. I mean, I would much rather have, I'm going to beat the drum here, Blake Corum, who's running back 33.
No way.
Jonathan Brooks, running back 36. Jonah Coleman even. I know you like him too, Aidan, running back 43, who I think can actually win the goal line in year 1 and also be a 3-down back for the Broncos down the road. So I just feel like Monangai is a little too expensive. JT, I want to hear, I think you're a Monangai guy, right?
I like Monangai. I like what he does, but I agree with you big time here. He's the 31's way too high. He's a nice handcuff on a team, but like you just said, you just mentioned like 3-4 guys.
Yeah.
That I'd much rather have as a handcuff, you know, because their ceiling is, hey, if the other guy goes out, I could come in and take over this running back role and be a fantasy stud. Now, say Swift goes down, I think Monangai will get more touches. I don't think they just all of a sudden one for one move in Monangai and he's just getting all the same carries, all the same passes. I think they switch it up a little bit. So I like him as a player. I think he fits the role that Chicago uses him for. But man, I just think there's a cap ceiling with him. I really do. And like you said, where he's going, there's a bunch. I would rather have another like super high end guy, like you said, Blake Corum. I'd rather a guy because I think Blake Corum gets in for Kyren Williams. To me, I think he could put up the exact same stats. I don't think there's any kind of drop off at all. So for me, I would rather have that guy that's a big upside guy. Like you said, Jonathan Brooks, we still haven't seen him yet. Yes, the injuries. But he's still super young. He's 2 years younger than Monangai at this point, and we've never seen him. So if you're going to swing on those things, I'd rather do that. To me, I'm taking Monangai as a handcuff or a nice touchdown guy in like a best ball league. But I'm not. I've been seeing him go way too high. Personally, in drafts, I like him. I would take him. I'm just not taking where he's going in almost all the startups or dynasty leagues I see. I just don't see the overall value there. He's going to be a decent player for the team. Fantasy-wise, though, I just see he feels really capped to me in fantasy of what he can do.
Yeah, and Fantasy Meatball likes Monangai as a great third flex on deeper rosters. I could get behind that.
See, if you can get him in that range, I'm on it. I like him. But if you got to look at if he's coming off the board, what, RB 31, right?
Yeah, it's rich.
He's he's your first sub. So the very first injury or the very first bye week that you need a player, he's your very first guy in the lineup. If I'm starting Monangai every week, I have a team that's awesome, and Monangai is my second running back. I immediately went out. I was like, I need to make a trade. I got to get somebody else. I can't. If I go to the season with Monangai as my second RB for the whole year, I'm in trouble. So I just, like I said, I like him. Just don't like him that much as far as taking him that high.
How about you, Aidan?
I like Monangai. I think 31, right, is 2 or 3 spots too high, but I don't think it's terrible. I think the contingent upside here is really high and really good. DeAndre Swift, for those that don't know, is a free agent next March, next offseason, whatever. And if he leaves, which I feel like he will, Kyle Monangai, I expect to be the Chicago's RB1 going forward. And I do believe that he is a much better talent than the 7th round, which is where he went last year. I think he should have been a 4th or 5th round pick rather than a 7th round pick, maybe even pushing 3rd round if you're really confident in him, which I was. So you guys said, and I said it as well, I want to invest in the Bears offense. And even though he's still up at RB31, this is the quote unquote cheapest way that you can invest in that Bears offense for someone who could be the successor RB1 to DeAndre Swift when he probably leaves in free agency next March.
And just to recap our overvalued players, once again, Aidan had Luther Burden. JT has Matthew Golden at wide receiver 49 as a overvalued player, and I have Kyle Manangai at running back 31 as an overvalued player. We're going to move over now to the undervalued player. So it's guys that we feel that have pretty good value on the ECR rankings. And Aidan sees a wide receiver that I absolutely love in both Dynasty and in redraft. He's just preaching to the choir here, and that's Christian Watson at wide receiver 31. Tell us more, Aidan, why you're in on Christian Watson.
Yeah, a few moments ago, I went over my doubts and concerns for Jaden Reed. So why not talk about my extreme confidence in Christian Watson going forward, right? Watson just agreed to a big 4-year contract extension with the Green Bay Packers. So he obviously has that massive contract insulation, quote unquote contract extension insulation that we love to see for dynasty purposes. And everyone says, oh, the Packers don't have a wide receiver 1. They sub this guy in, they sub this guy out. I want to heavily push back on that personally. And the numbers will bear that notion as false as well in weeks 9 through 18 last season, which, guys, is when he played the 10 games after he returned from the torn ACL. Watson ranked 15th in targets per route run, 8th in yards per route run, 8th in first downs per route run, and a whopping high 3rd in fantasy points per route run. He was an efficiency monster in that 10-game sample size. Everyone's concerns is over the injury. Fine, valid, severe hamstring issues, and then tears the ACL. But last year, I was surprised at how early he came back, let alone how early he actually got on the field and produced. And speaking of getting on the field, he stays in the field no matter what package. Jaden Reed is a slot-only receiver who gets squeezed out in 2 wide receiver sets. That's not the same for Watson at all. He plays in 11 personnel, 12 personnel, 2-3 tight end sets, whatever personnel and package you want to go with. He is not coming off that field. Let's move over to a high-volume running back over the last couple of years in Green Bay in Josh Jacobs. It seems like Josh Jacobs has been cleared legally. He will not be formally charged, at least at this point in time, at the time of this live recording. But that being said, the volume could catch up with him over the last couple of years. We've seen it with guys like CMC. We've seen it with guys like Saquon. Maybe he's like Derrick Henry and keeps defying the odds, but maybe not. That being said, we could see a legit uptick in passing volume from Jordan Love, and Matt LaFleur could be kind of the leader of that notion and scenario there. And that's been reported on, and the chatter has been surrounding that notion over the last few weeks or so, for sure. And I want to talk about the skill set. The reason that Christian Watson, he's an athletic freak, an athletic marvel, and it's a mouth-watering skill set. This is a player for fantasy purposes who doesn't need a ton of volume in the least to put up huge numbers and be successful. He could go out there and put up 3 catches for 90 yards and a touchdown in every given week, and nobody would be surprised because he's a huge 6'4" receiver on the outside who's an athletic freak. So that would surprise absolutely nobody. And we want to talk about the surrounding circumstances. Last point here, I promise. There's no more, at least assumably we would hope so, no more annoyingly stupid wide receiver rotation with Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks off to New England and Philly respectively. They are gone. They are no longer in the picture. So this isn't going to be some frustrating rotation anymore. The numbers bear it out. The skill set bears it out. Whatever you want to look at with Watson bears out. He is, even if people don't want to believe it, he is the Packers wide receiver 1. In Dynasty especially, you can't play scared. Is it a risk? Sure, technically, I guess so because of the severe injury history. But the skill set, as I just explained, plus more, is very, very tantalizing, and you have to be willing to bake that risk in with a player like Christian Watson. I think he's sitting at wide receiver 31 right now. I'm very bullish. I think he should be wide receiver 24 through 26 at the very least. I think he should be pushing legit low-end wide receiver 2 / high-end wide receiver 3 as the unquestioned number 1 in an offense that could see an uptick in passing value.
Yeah, and you said it, Aidan. I mean, despite missing half the season last season, Watson still ranked second on the team in targets. So, I mean, he, like you said, he can just come out and have a 25-30 burger at any given day. JT, how about you, man? Are you in on the Watson train?
I have to tell you, Christian Watson's been a guy I've done nothing but hate on ever since the end of the league. To be honest with you, I've not liked him at all. I've not liked him at all. I actually feel better about Christian Watson coming in this season than I ever have in his career. And part of that reason is like what Aidan said. A couple of those guys moved on. He really came back nicely from the injury. So instead of him coming into the season injured, he was injured before. Now he's like, finish the season healthy. So you're like, okay, that feels like a little bit better that he's not coming into an offseason injured and having to rehab to start the beginning of the year. So I actually am up on him, especially with some of these guys moving along. And for the reasons we just brought up, I always feel like these somehow perfectly match together. But for the reasons we just brought up, I don't believe in Matthew Golden. I like Jaden Reed, but he's not going to be your alpha one. I think with Tucker Kraft coming off the injury, I think they're going to lean on Christian Watson early. I don't have him in a ton of leagues. I have a few leagues because he just kind of fell to me in drafts in certain spots. So I ended up taking him even though I wasn't a big fan of him. I'm really like looking at those teams going, ooh, do I want to move him or do I want to sit and wait and see if he blows up? Because I think there's a chance that he ends up being the guy, at least the first half of the season, that they lean heavy on in the wide receiver group. So while I haven't been a Christian Watson guy in the past, even with the injuries, I feel like this is the year. If you're going to buy in on Christian Watson, now's the time. Get him now, because if he can put it together for 1 year, stay healthy as the wide receiver 1 for the Packers, I think then that just increases his value big time moving forward. So I do like this choice from Aidan for all the reasons that he doesn't like Jaden Reed. You guys like Golden. I like Watson for all those other different reasons, but I like him a lot. I think this is a really good call.
Yeah, I'm totally excited for Christian Watson's potential as well. He's another player, kind of like Ricky Pearsall. I want to see him put together a 17-game season. And I really do. If he does, man, the sky's the limit for Christian Watson. I mean, I can't wait to see it. Hopefully, Fantasy Meatball actually popped in here, and he said they got a new trainer. So maybe that's exactly what Christian Watson needs to get on the field to play us for 17 games. We're going to move a little bit south now from Green Bay down to Chicago, where JT sees, a running back too. I guess that's what you need to start calling DeAndre Swift, because that's what he does, man. I mean, that's all he does. He is a running back too. That's all he's ever done in fantasy football since the day he started. Never been worse than an RB2. JT, you feel like DeAndre Swift's got enough nail in the tooth there to keep it coming along here?
I do. And part of the reason, like you said, Monungai being at like 31 for the fact that, DeAndre Swift's at 25, like, I don't think those guys should be that close, right? They shouldn't be that close to me. And again, you can have all kinds of frustrations about DeAndre Swift over his career, different things, injuries. He's never been like absolutely the man just tearing up. But once you look at him in the proper perspective, I think you have to start actually like appreciating DeAndre Swift for who he is, right? He just had his best fantasy season in his entire career. And it's like, people are like, oh, yeah, DeAndre Swift. And I'm like you just said, he's finished his RB2 his entire career. He's never finished worse than running back 23. Ever.
That's amazing.
Ever. In 6 seasons. Never finished. So that's low end RB2, man. Those guys are beautiful for fantasy. You need that guy you can just plug in. He's going to get you decent numbers. He's not going to necessarily win you the league, but he's not going to lose you the league. I just think he is highly underrated. I think this Bears offense is just going to get better. to me, the fact that they liked him and Monangai enough to not go out there and try to draft another running back, go running back anywhere else. They didn't look like they were trying to sign anybody really. To me, that says, hey, we like what we got here in Swift. We like what we got in Monangai. If you're going off the half PPR scoring, he had just under 200 fantasy points last year. He finishes RB14. Just missed RB1 finish. Just missed it last year. If you ask most people, if they're not paying attention to the numbers, and you say, where did DeAndre Swift finish last year? I guarantee you people are never going to say he was top 15 running back. I just think people are forgetting it. I'm getting him cheap everywhere in drafts, especially startup drafts. Again, he is getting a little bit older, but it's not like he's ancient, and he doesn't have a million miles either. So even though he's played 6 years, I think he's 27 now. He's getting close to that 28-year-old cliff. But again, he's not a guy he's never seen more than 250 carries in a season. And that was his first year in Chicago, was his most carries. He's got 2 of his 3,000-yard seasons are in the last 3 years. He just missed 1,000 yards 2 years ago, got 1,000 yards last year. He's been very consistent as a PPR back. That's the other thing. Usually when you have an RB2 like this, he's the guy that comes off the field on third down, right? You're like, oh, he's like good for a second down. Then they put the other guy in on third down, hurts his P. Well, he's the third down guy. Monangai is a short yardage. Oh, bring him in on 2nd and 1, 3rd and 1, and then put Swift back in on passing downs. So I like that about Swift. And if you look at his receiving numbers over his career, very, very, very consistent. So even though he had his best overall fantasy season last year for the Bears, he actually saw his least amount of targets in his career with only 48. He's seen as many as 78 in his career when he was with Johnson and the Lions. He's been right around 300 yards. He had 299 last year in a touchdown, so just under 300 yards. Every other year, other than one in his career, he's been over 350 yards receiving. So to me, I think he's going to be right around those similar stats. I think he can be right around 1,000 yards again. I think he's going to be right around 300, 350 receiving yards. I think he can maybe bolster his catches into the 40s, 40, 45, another 50 yards receiving would be really nice for him. To me, the value is just there. If you're looking at everybody else around there, a guy that's pushing high, like low end RB1, but is like dead set right in RB2, I just feel like the value is there for him. And a guy that's getting drafted as like a low end RB2 when he's really right there in the mix. I feel like people are trying to take high side younger guys that are like technically like role players behind him. And especially like, I don't know, man. He's 27, but again, he's never seen a million carries in his career. So I think he feels like the type of player that he could still be pretty successful into his early 30s because he's not like dealing with just 100% speed. It's not like he's been a grinder forever. He's just going to lose it. So I really like what he's done. I thought what he did last year for the Bears has to give you, like, you have to feel good about it if you're a Swift owner going back into this year, going like everybody thought they were going to move him last year. He didn't get moved. Ended up having his best year. They brought him back. You're like, he could be gone after this year, like Aidan said. But if I'm him and I have another solid season, I'm taking the team discount and signing a 2 or 3 year deal with the Bears again, knowing I just had the 2 best years of my career. I'm not going to run off to somebody else. I'm going to stick there. So I do think there's a decent chance they re-sign him because I don't think it's going to cost them crazy money to do it.
Yeah, I like what you said there, JT. He's 27. He's a fresh 27 though, because he doesn't have the carry count like you mentioned. So he actually could push, north of 30. I could see that happening with DeAndre Swift because the carries that he's gotten. Before we get to my guy, we've got a question here. It seems like a very popular question between these two. I feel like when we've done shows, this is a question that's asked a lot. This comes from Winston Disclosure. Aidan, I'll come to you for this one. Yeah. Considering those injury concerns, would you rather have Alec Pierce or Christian Watson?
Oh boy, we've talked about it so many times. I feel like Christian Watson, like there's a ocean of a gap for me. It's Christian Watson, like not even. Yeah, it's Christian Watson.
I am so with you. And I think JT is. I can go ahead and answer for him. He's on board with that as well.
I usually am a huge Alec Pierce guy. Like I love Alec Pierce,
Uh-huh.
But I will say, I feel like Alec Pierce is right at about his max, what
Okay.
you're going to get from him in fantasy. I think he can add another 10 or 15 catches to his numbers, but I don't ever think he's going to be more than a 60 catch guy in his career. So you got to have the deep touchdowns for him to make him really valuable. I feel like these guys are very similar players. These are two guys I would love to have in best ball, right? In best ball, I love these guys on my roster in best ball. But I do think, even though Alec Pierce got wide receiver 1 type money, I think Christian Watson actually has the better shot at being a number overall 1 wide receiver for his team and pushing higher. So while I'm a huge Alec Pierce guy, and I can't believe I'm saying this, I actually do think I would take, in this situation right now, I think I would lean Christian Watson and they're right next to each other in ECR on Fantasy Pros. I mean, they're right next to each other. So I think it's close, but I do feel like Christian Watson's shown us he can have that monster ceiling. He can keep going. I think Pierce basically showed us who he was last year. I think he can add a few things. I just don't see it going much farther than what he did last year. It's 60 catches, 1,000 yards, 1,100 yards, and 7 or 8 touchdowns, I think is where he's at. Christian Watson, if he stays healthy, should easily get those numbers and probably eclipse them, to be honest with you.
And every player that we've talked about tonight, the next player, the final player that we're going to talk about, Dynasty startups. And you want somebody who's free, guys, in Dynasty startups. I'm no salesman, but this guy is literally free, no strings attached. I'm talking about Isaac TeSlaa, ECR wide receiver 76. I got to be careful when I say this, but everyone wants to find the next JSN. But what if I told you that we might have the next Puka Nacua? Now, hold on. I know TeSlaa is a 3rd round pick and Puka was a 5th rounder. I'm really kind of referring to the coming on scene out of nowhere, so to speak. This is the year to draft Isaac TeSlaa for how cheap he is, guys. I mean, last year, Khalif Raymond was the wide receiver 3, and now he is with the Bears. And despite TeSlaa being that wide receiver 4 last year, he ran more routes than Raymond, but now there's no timeshare. It's all him. Drew Petzing, the new offensive coordinator in Detroit, came from Arizona. Last year, all he did was pass. From week 9 on last season, Brissett threw the most passing attempts in the league. Arizona was also ranked 1st in pass rate over expectation. Petzing also utilized 11 personnel often. I mean, 12th most, and passed out of that formation 75% of the time, ranking 1st in the NFL. The times that we have seen Isaac TeSlaa step onto the field, it feels like good things happen when he's out there. I mean, what wide receiver 4 on a team have 6 touchdowns? Now, I know that that's not a very sticky metric, but if he's going to be on the field more, then he's got to be higher than wide receiver 76, right? I mean, he had a route participation of just 43%, yet he had more red zone targets than Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Alec Pierce, and DJ Moore. Like I tweeted out today, guys, I really feel like TeSlaa is a free square on your bingo card, and all you have to do is stamp it. Really curious before we get out of here, though, where you're at on that, JT and Aidan. I'll start with JT.
Yeah, I love Eddie Brito gets in there and says, if it ain't a car, I ain't paying for no Tesla.
I like it.
It's nice. I love
That's
it. Good
nice
joke.
one.
Made me laugh. I actually think this is a great call. This is what I kind of mentioned at the beginning of the show. There's a lot of guys that have a shot to step into the wide receiver 3 roles on teams that pass a decent amount, that these guys could be nice, fantasy relevant players, especially in deeper leagues or start like big starting lineups where you can play multiple flex plays. I think Tesla's a great call here. It's St. Brown and Jameson Williams in front of him, right? He should be their X. He should be the guy out there. And once you look, here's what always thing I want to look at when I'm looking at a 3rd wideout. Who is behind him? Who could beat him out for that spot? Well, it's Cedric Wilson. Yeah, it's a no-go. Greg Dortch, which we like Greg Dortch. He's nice. He's a slot guy. He's not playing that outside receiver role. He's not taking Tesla. The only other guy on this lineup that I like at wide receiver is Dominic Lovett, ex-Missouri and Georgia wide receiver, but he doesn't have the size Tesla has. the size and speed that Tesla has. So I love this call. They're going to throw the ball. People just keep forgetting that Jared Goff is like one of the only quarterbacks to throw for 4,000 yards the last two seasons. Like, he's throwing the ball. Like, and now we know St. Brown's going to catch 1 million balls, but he's going to catch more. You know, and if Jameis Williams keeps running those deep routes, I think Tesla is sneaky good play, especially in deep leagues. If you're in a monster deep league, like, I mean, just crazy deep, I would jump on a waiver wire and just stash him to see if anything happens, but that's Dominic Levitt. I would stash him as the wide receiver 4 on this team in case anything happens to the other guys. If something happens to any of those other guys get banged up, he's probably the most likely guy to get in there and get some PT. Again, that's a deep sleeper. I mean, deep. But I like Tesla, man. I think he is one of like 10 or 12 guys that could win that third wide receiver role and be really good in fantasy this year for certain teams.
Yeah, before we get out of here, Aidan, we haven't really talked about Isaac TeSlaa too much. Where are you at on him?
Yeah, Kyle, TeSlaa's a weird one and a tricky one for me to figure out personally, because on one hand, I really love the talent. I was a big fan of him coming out. Last year, we saw the unreal contested catch ability, the ridiculous touchdown grabs. I mean, he was one of the most efficient end zone targets, in the entire league. But on the other hand, he's kind of like, he is really buried in Detroit. Amon-Ra St. Brown speaks for himself. Jameson Williams, I'm not as much of a fan as they are, but they seem to love him, it seems. Sam Laporta, I think will get a big contract extension. At least personally, I'm in for voting for a huge bounce back for him. And then that's not even talking about Jahmyr Gibbs and how much they want to flex him out of the backfield to run the ball with him purely as well. As the 4th or 5th target, I think TeSlaa, actually, I know TeSlaa is really capped. The upside in that regard is capped. So love the talent. I just fear and concern going forward with all those guys under contract for the long-term future as well, that the true upside and target earning ability will be capped in that sense.
No, totally appreciate the pushback there, Aidan. But at wide receiver 76, man.
Yeah, might as well. At that point, yeah. I agree.
Yeah. No, but I appreciate the pushback. If you enjoyed tonight's show, guys, hit that bell icon for us. Subscribe to the Fantasy in Frames. Head over to fantasyinframes.com for dynasty and redraft ranking articles as well. Premium content is here for $4.99 a month. Don't forget to stick around for Shoot the Gap. It's our IDP show. It's coming up next at 9 p.m. Eastern, followed by Fourth and Frames at 10 p.m. Eastern. We're going to have Pat Fitzmaurice on, like I said earlier, from Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros. You won't want to miss that. Keep it locked right here on the Fantasy and Frames Network. For Aidan, for JT, I'm Kyle Zeigler. We'll see you next Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern.